Audric Estime. You see him getting slammed people down to the ground. I love that. Old school smash mouth. I'm going to beat the crap out of you kind of football. Audric Estime from Notre Dame. The hunchback from Notre Dame here. 5'11", 221 pounds. Still just 20 years old. Turns 21, though, in September. So he's not quite as young as Braylon Allen there, but still very young. Last year, 12 games. 210 rushes, 1,341 yards. That's a 6.4 yards per carry average, 18 touchdowns, 17 receptions, 142 yards, and a 94.2 PFF grade. This guy, to me, is probably the most underrated running back in this entire draft. There's a couple of guys, obviously, he's at number 4, so I have a couple of guys, obviously, I think that are better overall. But this is that guy that I think really has the potential because of his age, because of his productivity at Notre Dame, that, let's be honest, Notre Dame is one of those schools that plays a lot of good schools every year because it's a big football, contract at that point to get on TV with Notre Dame. You want to play at Notre Dame. It brings you notoriety. And again, 1,300 yards. He had more touchdowns. I said more yards than Blake Corum. He was 1.6 yards per carry better than Blake Corum. And granted, he had some great tackles. We talked about 2 of the 15 tackles in our in our conversation about tackles in this draft were from Notre Dame. So he had the same great offensive line that Corum had as well. I'm not trying to take that part away and ignore that fact, because if you ignore that, you're just being a hypocrite at that point.
Pretty much.
But he did have an amazing season. And you didn't hear about Notre Dame too much as a passing team. They were a running team this year. And this is who ran the ball for them and had a really good showing of doing it. Prior year in 22, 13 games, 156 rushes, 920 yards, 5.9 yards per carry. So still a very high yards per carry average there. 11 touchdowns, 9 receptions, 135 yards, and a touchdowns. As far as the pros, very physical, very powerful runner. You saw there where we're showing the picture. And I actually think that's 2 different angles of the same play. I should say that. I loved when I saw those. I was like, yes, that's old school football. Yeah. That's what I freaking love. Yeah, like I'm just going to put my hand out, stiff arm you, and then knock you down to the ground. And that's exactly what it did to that guy. Patient, good at pass blocking. As far as the cons for him, he's had more than the average fumbles. He definitely has to have somebody teach him a little bit still on ball security. Though he's been getting better at that. Stiff hips. So he's definitely that guy that where he's going because he just doesn't have that ability, that shiftiness in his body as he's going there. He's doing a little boom, 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 boom. It's all in the hips, the K-Chubs. He also lacks the home run threat speed. So he's not a guy that's going to run down the field for 80-yard touchdowns at that point and go crazy at that point. But you don't need that. I think, to me, that's so overplayed in this league. It really is. Like, are those plays great? Yes, they're spectacular. Don't get me wrong. They're fun to watch. They're a great pickup for the team overall. But even the greatest home run threat guys, how often do they do that? 2-3 times a season?
Maybe, yeah.
I'll take a guy who's consistently get 5-6 yards a carry. Call me crazy.
So great.
May not be as exciting, but it's a whole lot more effective long term. So, I think Audric's going to probably go in the 3rd round. I think that's where he's going to end up going at that point. But like I said, he's that guy that if you need a guy to potentially be a stud running back and you're into that 3rd, 4th round kind of area and he's still available, there's no guarantee he's going to be a stud. Don't get me wrong. But he has stud potential.
When you're talking, 2,300 yards in 2 years? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, he's got a tough Notre Dame schedule. Like, all right.
Yeah. So I'm saying,
I think with that he's probably going to go in the third round, probably like maybe late in the second, but probably high in the third.
I mean, he could sneak in a second. It depends on how quick other people go, because there's a couple guys I have here going in probably the second, third range at that point there. Basically, everybody left. And, yeah, it all depends on what he does, as far as what time these guys go, what time he'll go. Because somebody's going to go, okay, hold on. The big three are gone. Here's my next 100%. Guy. And they're going to take either Blake or Audric at that point, one of these two at that point, or maybe even Trey. But I think Trey is, one notch down from these guys. And again, this football is very much like that. People draft with needs in mind. I hate that. It's so stupid. It's not even funny. That's why I love some of the moves the Giants have made this offseason. We're trying to make it we don't have any needs. We may have wants and desires and upgrades we'd love to have, but not needs.
Yeah, big difference.
Quarterback, that's a whole separate thing.
Well,
anyway, so yeah, like I said, Audric Estime, I think he's going to be a good player in this league. There, just see if he reaches that full potential at that point. But at the very least, he's going to be a good committee guy to have at that point. Best case scenario, he's a guy who becomes 1,000-yard rusher in this league. He has that potential.
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.